Do you want to talk about what we're doing today?
Oh, you were already recording?
I've been recording for like 10 minutes.
Oh,
yeah.
sorry. Yeah, episode 2.
Number 2.
Can you believe anybody listened to episode number 1?
No, I can't.
Yeah, and we've had a bit of a global outreach.
Yeah, because we're both, how would you put it nicely? Quite obsessive.
Yes.
In different ways. But both as a Leo and a Scorpio have absolutely no chill. So we have been religiously watching stats all week.
Yes.
But I think we've been blown away, to be honest, by, well, like we said, we genuinely thought it'd be our mums and that would be it, or our partners who we forced to put on repeat. But it's been like Eurovision of the podcast world.
God. Malta, Austria.
Was Belgium one of them? Or Bulgaria? Germany. Which is just insane. So thank you for listening. It feels really weird talking to people now, but there are people on the other end of this. And also, TikTok has just been
amazing.
Bonkers.
Do you want to hear something really exciting about TikTok, actually?
Yeah.
We've hit 1,000 followers.
Did you save that for today to tell me?
We're
oh my god.
1,018 followers. So
that
thank you, guys.
Is absolutely fucking crackers. Oh my god, I can't believe that. That's insane. So, yeah, thank you to everyone.
So, today we're going to rate all our SJM males. Well, not all out males, because it would take us too long. So we've handpicked some from each book series.
Yes.
So we've got ACOTAR, Throne of Glass and Crescent City. And we've taken a selection of the males from each set of books and rated them. And we're just going to talk about why, and we've got some quotes.
We have
of some of our favourite quotes from our favourite characters, and
we've got a list of 17.
It's a random number, isn't it?
It's a real random number. There wasn't too much rhyme or reason to the list.
No. We just tried to go for like big hitters, really.
Yeah, people who've got enough like screen time that you can actually form an opinion. And this isn't a list on romantic, I would say. Like, although that is a big factor in a lot of them, it isn't just like who we'd want to bang, basically.
No.
Although that is a large part of it. And I did think at one point, again, we did this last time where we talked about all the things we're going to do, but I'm just putting it out into the ether, that maybe at some point we could revisit this list, but literally do a wingspan. So, like, who do we, out of the men who have wings, there's not as many. Yeah. But maybe only be like 5, I think, off the top of my head.
Yeah, our Illyrians and our angels.
Yeah, and then, like, I wondered, do we go into the world of, because, like, Rowan technically, but then obviously he's not going to be the biggest. Yeah. But then I suppose body mass, I don't know. But I thought maybe at some point we could revisit and do actual wingspan.
Yeah. And I think we'll try and do the SJM females at some point as well.
I think, definitely. Those are like the 3, like, well, the last one was obviously the books, the 2 sets of characters. I feel like those are the main ones to start off with. And then we still definitely intend to do actual book reviews.
Yes.
It's just been the timing, I think, and also finding the right series to do it on, because I think at some point as well we'd love to go back and redo the SJM books in the whole Massiverse. But because we've started with doing our top 16, wasn't it? Yeah. It feels like we're just repeating ourselves. So maybe we need to find the right series to kind of because we've thought 6 of Crows, but then I do wonder, like, because why are people here? It's in the title. Yeah. We're here for smut. Wingspan, I feel like we can forgive. Yeah. But I think that's the only thing with 6 of Crows, as far as I'm aware, it's YA. Mm-hmm. Which is fine. Like, we love YA. Throne of Glass is YA. Like, we don't dislike. It doesn't always have to be smut. But so yeah, we're doing our top 17 SJM males. Okay,
are we doing what we did last time and starting with our
go bottom all the way up? Yeah.
Do you want to start today?
My number 17 is Tamlin.
Yeah.
I just feel like, and I feel like maybe if we had another book,
Do you know, my number 17 is also Tamlin. I think we both knew that was going to be the case. Obviously, because of his treatment of Feyre after Under the Mountain. But also, while he's under the mountain... Like,
oh yeah, so bad.
Like little silent child in the corner.
Absolutely cuckolded in that first book because we said this last time that we don't get the red flags at the time.
No,
he was such a red flag.
Yeah,
and so was Rhysand, obviously. But I think because the focus is on Rhysand being the villain, the fact that and then the only moment that they had to potentially free her, he just decides to neck her instead.
Yeah, brilliant.
But such a red flag in hindsight. But I agree with you.
But if there was a Tamlin redemption, I think we said this in the last pod.
We'd be here for it.
Yeah, I'd definitely read it. And I'd be willing to go in with an open mind as well. But for now,
he's number 17. And I also am not mad if the theory came out to be true that him and Elaine end up together. I'm not mad at that. I'm not gonna, I think she'd love the spring court.
Oh my God, yeah,
she'd love it.
Flowers
the whole thing of Feyre doesn't want to be like, kept in, but there's nothing wrong with being like just wanting like a simple life and gardening and just being like, what's the word? Not like a sugar daddy, but you know what I mean? Like a equivalent of. There's nothing wrong with that. And I actually think that's really lovely for Elaine. So I wouldn't be mad with that.
Yeah, no.
But Tamlin is number 17. Number 16?
I went for Fenris.
Me too!
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You go ahead.
Just because...
What more can you
say? There's not a lot to
it's
him,
fine.
Is there? There's not a lot of story around Fenris.
No. But people... So when I was reading Throne of Glass, kind of once I actually got to Heir of Fire, which I think is the first book we meet Fenris, right? Yeah, because it's in Dornell.
Yes.
So, I had seen a lot of TikToks, people saying that he was like one of their favourites. Like he on the Throne of Glass book talk, Fenris is up there.
What?
He's like the Lucian of Throne of Glass. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But people love him.
Nah,
I don't get it. and again, I think that when I see quotes, I'm like, I don't remember Fenris saying that.
That's what I was going to say. That's what I got written. Forgettable.
Very forgettable. I think maybe if we did a reread, maybe we'd feel different. You're looking out for it, aren't you?
And also, Throne of Glass is such a large series. Like, what is it, 7, 8 books? 8 books. So, I don't remember everything from every book. I've only done one read-through.
Same, yeah.
So, maybe if we did multiple read-throughs, then maybe we'd have different opinions on the characters. But...
Agreed. And as well, I feel like in Throne of Glass, it's almost like we're a little bit different actor, and in Crescent City, that almost every character is a main character. You know what I mean? There's a lot of main characters in Throne of Glass who have quite significant input. So it is hard to keep track. But Fenris was my number 16. Number 15.
Do you want to go?
Yeah. This is probably going to be a hot take, but we're here for them. Rowan.
I mean, I know you don't like him.
I don't dislike him. I just really don't rate him. Sorry.
So, Rowan was one of the quotes that I wrote down. And it's when him and Selena, or Aelin, whatever you want to call her, go to see Arabin, and he says, thank you for the oil, my skin was a little dry.
Yeah.
I'm just like, yes, Rowan.
There's a lot of good Rowan moments. Yeah. I don't dislike him at all, but I think for me, if I were to compare him to our other two leading males, he just, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think and I think we mentioned this last time, that their enemies to lovers is enemy. You know what I mean? They kind of going from I hate you, you're worthless, you shouldn't have been born, I'm going to punch you in the face, which is so funny. I remember reading that and being like, did he actually just fucking punch her in the face? For me, it's almost a little too enemies to lovers.
Yeah.
And we mentioned, I know we referenced Holly Black's Cruel Prince and Carden, spoiler alert, but that for me is a much more natural enemy. Whereas I don't know, for me, Aelin and Rowan, I just think of the three leading men, he's the least my type.
And also, they're really distant cousins, aren't they?
Yeah, it's real hard. I remember reading it and then Googling it and going on so many Reddit threads about it, and people were like, oh, it's mentioned further on, it's really distant. I just don't think there was any need to reference it. You could have told me that the three OG Faye sisters, Maeve, I can't remember their name, Mab and whatever, were related, and the fact that all three of them descended from those three fae, and I still wouldn't have registered in my brain that would make them related. Yeah. So for me, that was a big ick. I know it but I just don't think there was a need to put that in. Yeah.
So my number 15 was Tharion.
Yeah, that he's not particularly much higher on my list.
And like in the first book, I quite liked him. You know when he's like flirting with Bryce and like
so flirty,
like really like rubbing Hunt up the wrong way. I loved that. Third book,
he's rough.
Oh my god, he just did my head in.
Yeah,
I was just like, every time it came round to Tharion, I was like, go away.
Fed up.
Like,
I agree.
I don't want to read about you.
Yeah,
I'm like, I just feel like he's whingy and
by the third book, definitely.
Yeah, just I didn't enjoy him in Flame and Shadow. Yeah, Flame and Shadow. Yeah. I just didn't enjoy him.
Yeah, me too. I'll go a bit more into Tharion when I get to him, but I do agree with your like what you're saying. Yeah. 14?
My 14 is Ethan Hallstrom.
Same.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. What can we... I mean... Did you know he plays Sunball? The amount of like those fucking TikToks of people being as equally agged about that in Flame and Shadow as us. Like, I love it. I'm so here for Ethan slander because I actually didn't mind him. I mean, he's hardly in Earth and Blood. If not even in it, just mentioned maybe.
Mentioned as Connor's little brother.
Yeah, he's not actually... Because he... Oh, no, you only was in with them in Sky and Breath, right? Yeah. Or is it Earth
No, he comes to help her in the end of Earth and Blood, doesn't he?
Yeah, but he isn't like... Yeah, so he's not really in Earth and Blood much. Like, didn't mind him in Earth and Blood. Actually didn't mind him that much in Sky and Breath either.
Until the end of Sky and Breath. When
he's... With
the mystic and just... Shut up, Ethan.
I saw a really funny TikTok the other day that was like a cat running around in circles, and it was like Ethan trying to deal with the situations he puts himself in, and it's like, yes.
Have you seen the one that is it's the robot vacuum and it keeps
it's like the same thing with a robot. Yeah, it's so like I couldn't agree more. Like, I don't dislike him. He's not a red flag.
No.
But like...
And like the whole like he was in love with Bryce and then that all sort of just disappeared.
I found it weird that Connor and Ethan were both in love with her. Like I love Bryce, right? I'm sure she's an absolute baddie. But like not everybody needs to be in love with Bryce, you know? Like I think that it was fine just being Connor.
Yeah.
It didn't add to the plot. And because like in reality, if Ethan was really in love with Bryce, would he have been sharing an apartment with her and Hunter literally banging each other 2 rooms across? Exactly. You know? Mm-hmm. I agree. And by this whole like thing in Flame and Shadow, Sarah, if you're listening, where every single time Ethan makes a decision, it's like, because remember in Sunball, it's like Sunball. No, it just became his like only
when I played Sunball
personality trait. Yeah, it just I agree. That was 14, right? So 13.
My 13 is Rowan.
Okay.
And I actually quite like Aelin and Rowan together.
Yeah.
When we put this list together, there's just... I didn't realise how many of the males I loved. He ended up dropping down my list, unfortunately. But I did write down the quote, to whatever end, fire heart.
Yeah, I mean...
The stuff he says to her is just
great.
So sweet.
It's like, I feel like we said this in the last one when we were rating all 16. It's really hard. I'd say all of them minus Tamlin. So offence Tamlin. but all the offence. It's really hard because it's like picking your favourite children.
Yeah.
In the least creepy way.
Yeah.
But it's the same with picking 16 books because really there isn't a bad one. It's just your preference.
Yeah.
But I agree, like my number, what was that, 13?
Yes.
My number 13 is Tharion.
Okay.
So like I agreed with what you said. Like I actually really loved him in the first book. He was really like so flirty. Like I just loved it. Bit in the second, like okay, doing some stupid things, but okay. Like that we got a bit of backstory with why he ended up with the River Queen.
Yeah.
His sister dying. Like that was all really sad. But then by Flame and Shadow, Jesus Christ, like. I actually kind of like the marriage of convenience trope.
Yeah.
So the fact that he's like married Sathya and they actually probably might get it on. I actually kind of like that as well. I don't mind it. I just like, and there's some bits in Flame and Shadow, I didn't get any quotes, but there was some bits where I was like, oh, I love Tharian so much. You know, he's so like cocky, but there was so much moaning.
Yeah.
So much moaning. Same thing as Ethan, like moaning about situations that they've put themselves in, and at no point did they finally go like, yeah, like I'm gonna get myself out of this. Like, no, we're just gonna.
It's just like, I'll follow Bryce.
Fucking
like,
moan.
Yeah, and I'll just do it, whatever. Like, oh god, it's
literally.
Ugh.
So that was my number 13.
Okay, where are we then? 12.
12.
My number 12 is Lorcan.
Okay, he's not particularly that much higher on my list.
Okay.
But I'm surprised. Because thinking of who my number 13 is.
Wait.
No, 12, sorry.
12, yeah, sorry.
Thinking of who's next on mine, I'm surprised that this person rates higher, but go ahead.
Okay. Again, like, I don't dislike Lorcan, and I quite like, I think we talked about it last time, when he's travelling with the lead.
Yes.
And just like, I think he's really sweet with her, and I think it's really funny when she's like a fortune teller and he's like
it's
a strong
man. Yeah, really funny.
And like making her sanitary products.
So cute.
And well, what Lorcan did. That's probably why he's down on my list.
Yeah,
because that like
dirty.
Dot.
Yeah. Because we even got like a little bit more with the likes of like Aegon and Lysandra.
Yeah.
I know it wasn't much, and obviously that the whole thing is like Throne of Glass. Like, there's not really much banging.
Yeah.
A little bit, but not much.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I'm surprised that we got, of all the people you'd think that Lorcan would have been one she'd write a banging scene for. Just one. Yeah. Just one little one.
Yeah, like he's some like a big 7-foot warrior.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine it?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
And I do. My number 12 is Gavriel.
No.
Because for me, right, like, I like Gavriel.
I love Gavriel.
I know you do. But I like him, his sacrifice, like, sob my friggin' eyes out. Close the gate, Aegon.
Oh, I've got that written down.
Wrecks me. I love him. It isn't, but just like, you know, like, he's fine. I think a lot of Gavriel's, what's the word? Like, attraction's the wrong word. But a lot of like the things I like about Gavriel ultimately boil down to that fact. You know, if he hadn't have died, I just don't think you'd rate him.
But no, because when they're having that battle at the gate, and all the what do they call them?
Who?
The group of boys.
Oh, the cadre.
Yeah, when they all come and they all just go past her, and only he comes back to try and help her. When they're fighting at the gate of the village.
Oh, I don't remember that, but okay. That's really
he's
sweet.
the only one that like tries to help her.
Who? Aelin? Or Lysandra?
No, Aelin, sorry. I'm not explaining this well. When she's holding the gate and they're trying to get all the villagers out through the tunnels, he's the only one that comes back to help her. Lorcan, Fenris.
Oh, fuck off.
Yeah, they all go to try and find Rowan, and he's the only one. And then she looks at him and all she sees is Aegon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just love it. And I love him.
I had an absolute corker of a Gavriel, kind of a Gavriel Aegon quote, and I can't here we go. So this is kind of like, I put it underneath Aegon, but in reality this applies to Gavriel, so I'm going to read it now because we haven't done a quote yet, and like you've done something, I haven't done a quote, it's really funny. Aelin had called him Uncle Kitty Cat all of one time before Aegon had snarled viciously enough to make her think carefully before using the term again. I do not remember that.
Oh my god, I remember that.
I don't remember it. That was fucking fantastic.
Brilliant.
I love Aelin,
Cat.
but like Uncle Kitty Cat, that's fucking fantastic. Brilliant. So sorry. That was, but I like Gavriel. Yeah. He's fine. I just, okay. Have you done your number 12?
Yeah, mine was Lorcan.
Okay, yeah. Number 11.
Mine is Lucian.
Mine's Lucian. Oh
my God, we've had so many.
I thought he'd be higher for you.
No, I do really like Lucian. Obviously, I quite like his friendship with Feyre that develops.
Yeah.
But then, by the time of like Wings and Ruin and like Aelin's, he thinks Elaine's his mate, and like he's just a bit mopey and a bit like lurking in the corners and like do my head in now. But then when he comes back at the end
with Vasa,
I can get back on board with him. But
yeah,
I'm just living for the theories that he's not part of the Autumn Court.
Or at least Helion's son. Yeah, I agree. I feel like a lot of Lucian's, like, a lot of the reason why people love Lucian is because of what he's like in Thorns and Roses. And it's the only one I've never reread. So I genuinely haven't read it in like a year and 3 months. So for me, I think maybe if I reread Court of Thorns and Roses, I'd actually be like, oh, there was a lot of like fun Lucian things. Yeah. Having just reread Akawar, I actually forgot, right? You know, at the end when they all come back after they've defeated Hybern and they have that meeting in the ruins of her family estate. Yes. And like Drakon and Miriam are there and blah, blah, blah. I actually forgot of how much that like him and Elaine, it's so heavily implied that him and Elaine actually do start to kind of, you know, and it's like minimal, but up until that point she wouldn't even like look at him. And actually there's quite a few bits where I was like, that's a bit like... So, but then obviously, as we know at the end of Silver Flames, Akawar Silver Flames, you get the bonus chapter of them, Azrael and Elaine. It's Silver Flames. Yes. Yeah, because it's after Winter Solstice, yeah. Obviously, that exists, so it's canon. But up until that point, there's a lot of bits where I genuinely, now having reread it, I thought, oh, actually, like, Lucian's actually really nice by the end. And yeah, I agree with you. Like, his friendship with Faye was really sweet. But
and I love the TikToks. I don't know if you've seen any of them, where it's like Lucian and Feyre after they get the twins killed, and they're like pissing themselves, like rolling around on the floor, pissing themselves laughing. Yeah, and I'm like,
it's really cute.
Yeah,
and yeah, I'm so here for the fact that like he's Helion's son. I love Helion. Like, yeah, so I'm here for it.
Yeah.
10.
I think you're gonna be shocked with this. My 10 is Hunt.
Am I shocked by that? No, I'm not.
Okay. Cool.
I didn't expect him to rate that high on your list.
Yeah. I mean, I love Bryce. You know that Bryce is my, like, ride or die. But Hunt, I'm just a bit like, fine. And I quite like the interactions between Hunt and Bryce. But when it's revealed that, like, he is him on the boat and, like, that, I was like, gasp. You bastard. Yeah. And like,
and I'm sure when she says like, I was waiting for you, Hunt, and then he says, because I was obviously looking for Hunt quotes, and he says like, oh, like, give me 30 minutes, sweetheart, I'll be home. And she's like, no, I was waiting for you in here.
Yeah,
but the fact that he calls it, I'm not going to go too much into it because he rates considerably higher on my list. But the fact that he calls her sweetheart.
That's one of my quotes, sweetheart, I've got you. And it's when she's with the healer.
Yeah, it's one of my quotes as well. Like, I've got you, he murmured, sweetheart, I've got you.
Yeah. And our love is stronger than time, greater than any distance. Our love spans across stars and worlds. I will find you again, I promise. That goodbye between them.
Yeah. I'm not going to go too much into Hunt because I've got a lot more to say on him. I've got another cracking quote, but I'll save it for higher up in the list.
Okay, so who is your number 10?
Lorcan.
Okay.
I love Lorcan. Do you know what really does it for me is when people make those size comparison videos on TikTok. First of all, whoever you are out there, if you're listening, I fucking love them and keep making them. And I actually don't think it does say anywhere canon that Lorcan is 7 foot, but I'm so here for it. Like, when I see that man, you know, when I like look at all of them and they're going up and then like Cassian, and then I see Lorcan, I'm like, fuck. Like, I agree, like, we were absolutely fucking robbed. There is only so high he could be purely for the fact that we don't get a huge amount from him.
Yeah.
But I really like Lorcan. I genuinely think that if he was in, like, if he kind of had as much, like, screen time as, like, Rhysand, he would be considerably higher up on my list. I'm sure there's a scene in when they're in Dornell and they're like down an alley, and I think it's maybe when they're looking for Aelin when she's been captured by Maeve. Again, I can't remember exactly. And they like find a guard in the alley, and Rowan like not tortures him, like threatens him because they're trying to get information. And then he says something like, oh, you don't want to go further down that alley because guess who's down there? And he's like, who? And he sees him and he's like, oh my god, it's Lorcan Salvatier? I don't know how we say it. Salvatier.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
I kind of love that he's such a Beanock.
Yeah.
just for reference, BNOC is big name on campus. And I love that he's the leader of the cadre. Like, I kind of like... Yeah. Well, is he? Yeah, he's not Rowan, is it? It's Lorcan. He's her... Yeah, Lorcan is the leader of the cadre. I'm pretty confident, not Rowan.
I don't know, no.
I'm sure that Rowan reports to Lorcan. I'm sure he does.
I don't know. I thought it was the other way around. I
I'll
thought it
have
was
to have a
Rowan. Yeah, can't remember.
But, yeah, kind of the same as what you said. Like,
yeah.
I like him. It's hard to give him a higher ranking because, you know, is what it is. Mm-hmm. Okay. Number 9?
Yeah.
Yeah, you go.
My number 9 is Sartak.
Okay.
I just think we don't get enough of him.
Yeah, agreed.
Like, what is it? Tower of Dawn, and then
a little bit in
Kingdom of Ash. And that's it.
Yeah.
His love for Nesrin.
Stunning.
Beautiful.
Stunning.
And they're all my quotes. So, somebody says, I can't remember who it is, but refers to her as another queen, as an ally, and he says not queen, empress.
Yeah. Oh, I got goosebumps when you said that. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. And then another one after that, he says, we won the war, Nesrin and Philippe, and now we shall go home. And I'm like, the fact that he calls it home, like, for both of them.
Her. Oh, I know. He's
stunning.
He's not particularly much higher on my list. I didn't have any quotes for him, but I haven't got the quote, but it's when he's like telling... So he's about to be dragged off by the spider, you know, when it captures him. And he says, like... as soon as I heard of Nice Arrow, I knew I was in love. Oh, do you want to read it?
I loved you before I ever set eyes on you. I wish we'd had time.
And then he says, like, as soon as I heard about Nice Arrow, I knew I was in love with you. Oh, yeah, I think if you were to take, like, screen time versus, like, how much goodness we get from it, Sartak's is really, like, considering how little we get of Sartak, what we get of him is, like, exquisite. Like, but I think if we had more, he would be considerably higher.
I agree.
I love that Nesrin turns out to be Empress. The fact that she's from this quite, like, working class family who her mum is from Wendelin. No, well, not Wendelin. What's it called? Is it the south or the east? I can never remember which way they go. Is it east? No, east is Dorna. I can't remember.
I need the map.
I know. but her mother is from, like, because her mother, that's the whole thing, she was a visit her mother's family, doesn't she? Like, aunties and uncles.
Yes.
And I love that, like, I think she says in Tower of Dawn, like, I've always wondered why my parents chose to live in Ardlyn, not here, because it's so much, like, it feels like home to her. Yeah. And the fact that she's from a really working class family, she turns out to be the fucking Empress.
I know.
Oh, it gives me goosebumps. I love it.
Chef's kiss.
Love it. What was that, number 9?
Yeah.
My number 9 is Sam Cortland.
Sam Cortland.
I love Sam.
And I suppose he's another one that doesn't get enough screen time because...
We have a couple of not much in Assassin's Blade. And I think, again, if he had more screen time, we would feel considerably different. He's not particularly, like, the swooniest.
No.
But I suppose, like, they're quite young, aren't they? And, like... He's not going to say things like Sartak.
No,
you know?
But like when he says like I've always been in love with you, and Arabin knew that I was in love with you, and that's why he beat you in front of me.
Because he knew it would be like
and like wasn't it like he said like if you never hurt her again, you can have me. Yeah, like if you never touch her again.
Yeah. And his whole backstory with, like, his mum being a courtesan, didn't want him to turn out that way, gave him to Arabin. Yeah, I mean, just heartbreaking. He's a big green flag.
Yeah, he is.
Like, a big... Like, because I know there's, like, a whole discussion about her losing her V-plates to him, and she says, like, she's not ready. And he's like, yeah, take all the time you want. Like, just such a big green flag. And I think, like, that if he had more screen time, we would feel differently. But it's limited. Yeah. Number 8?
My number 8 is Kaol.
Okay. Ours is so similar.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with Kaol. And everyone sort of hated him up until Tower of Dawn.
Yeah.
But I never got that. I never got
I never hated him.
Like like he sold Selena out and like I
he didn't.
Yeah.
He didn't see, like, I always understood why Selena felt that way.
Yeah.
Right? But I don't think that's what really happened. I think like Kale's decisions are just because of his like background and upbringing. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
You know?
And like, I never went into Tower of Dawn hating him. So like, there's so many people who are like, oh, can I skip Tower of Dawn? Oh, don't want to read about Kale. And I'm like, what?
Crazy.
And then when he does go to, when we do get Tower of Dawn, and he meets Irene.
Yeah.
Or Irene, whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
That romance
Stunning.
and like, just like
the scene where they're like, it's not opium, but the scene where they're like smoking opium, fuck me. Like, fuck. The description of him getting a hard on.
Yeah.
I think that's what I love about Throne of Glass is the fact, because it's YA, is so creative.
Yeah.
It's like so much suspense in it.
Yeah.
And I actually kind of love that you almost don't get the like graphic details because it's just so much more like tense, you know? I love Kale.
Yeah, I really like Kale. And like him learning to walk again and like
and I kind of liked this sounds bad, but like I kind of enjoyed that it wasn't just like magical heal him and he's fine.
Yeah.
I kind of liked that there was like a little bit of a give and pull with it, you know? I'm not going to go too much into it. Well, he's a little bit higher up on my list.
Okay.
I'm just going to say next one because who knows what number it is Sartak.
Okay.
Like, again, we've said it, but love him. Just, if he had a bit more screen time, would probably love him even more.
Yeah, definitely would actually.
Okay.
My next on my list is Gabriel.
Okay.
And you knew that he was going to be considerably higher.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, you like him a lot.
And I cried hard for Gabriel.
Yeah, me too.
That really gutted me.
Yeah.
I was just so upset. And I was upset for Aedion because I felt like he'd been robbed. Like he'd finally accepted him and was sort of like, okay, like you're my dad and I'm going to try and give you a chance. And then he sacrifices himself for him.
And I think as well, like, when you think, because obviously Aedion and Aelin are cousins, in quite a loose sense, but because am I right in saying that Aelin's mum and Aedion's mum was cousins?
Yes.
So technically second cousins, but they were very close because they kind of like took Aedion and his mum on.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, they all lived together.
Yeah. I forget, and I kind of only realised this when I was writing my list about Gabriel, is had he have lived, he's like the closest thing that Aedion or Aelin have to like a parent. And that's heartbreaking to know that there's the two of them. They've thought they've been orphans for so long. Then for like a really brief time, they actually have a family member and then it gets taken away again. It's heartbreaking.
It's just like the ultimate sacrifice, isn't it?
Yeah,
like,
it is.
It's just beautiful.
It is beautiful. It's a chef's kiss. Yeah. What number were we? Sorry.
I don't know.
The next one is Azriel.
Fuck off.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
Yeah. Sorry. Said it now. It's out there. Because for me, right? Oh, you're horrified. because after this, we got Azriel. I got one more, and then we're in our top 5. So like, he isn't that low.
Oh, okay.
Did you think he'd be in my top 5?
Yeah.
No. And again, very much just repeating what we've said. If he there's just not enough of Azriel for me. Like, having just reread Mr. Fury Wings and Ruin again, I realised how literally that boy says 5 fucking words in 2 books, and people go feral for him. And I'm sure, right?
I know, but I do think it's a bit like
kind of like a bit of like
mysterious.
I do get it. Yeah, no, I do get it. I just
shadow singer.
Yeah, I just when I was looking at who's left. Yeah, I like Azriel. And he's hot, and like, if I'm sure once we get that Azriel book, he probably will be in my top 5. But just for now, with what we have, with the material we have, there's just not enough of him. I love when he attacks Baron in the High Lords meeting. There's a lot of great things about Azriel. That bonus scene in Akasif with him and Elaine is so hot. They like barely kiss, and I was literally like, there's so many good things about him. I just need more.
Okay.
Who's next for you?
Sam Courtland.
Okay.
And I just like, we've said it, I just think it's so sweet between him and Selena, and the whole, my name is Sam Courtland and I will not be afraid. Yeah. And then like she adopts that as her saying.
Yeah, I know.
And I just think they're so sweet. The only thing I don't like about Sam Courtland
is
when they've bought their freedom from Arabin and they're living in that like loft
apartment
thing,
and
like he's going out to those fighting circles every night and like disappearing, and like I'm just like, oh Sam, she doesn't want you to do it. Like,
kind of hot though. Not gonna lie, kind of hot. Like the thought of Sam Courtland in a fighting ring, kind of hot. No, not bloody all beat up and...
Yeah, but like he's a child. Like they're
well,
still young.
He's like, they're like 19. But
but I'm just like, oh, baby Sam.
I think as well, because I can't remember exactly why, because she wants to go sooner than him. Like, he makes her do that, or he does that one last job. And I can't remember the reasoning for it, but I'm pretty certain I was like, Sam, you could just go.
Yeah.
Just go. So I kind of like do agree with that.
Yeah. My number 6 is Rune.
Okay. That's fine.
I love Rune. Like, I really enjoy him. I enjoy him with Flynn and Declan.
Yeah,
I love that friendship, and I love the banter.
I love the like frat boy dynamic, because normally, like, when you take Ethan as like a frat boy, no, but there's just something about Ethan, something about Rune, Declan, and Flynn. I'm here for.
Yeah.
Well, the fact that first of all, Declan is our LGBTQ plus queen. Flynn, I thought about putting them on this list. Spoiler alert, not on this list. But I just think they just wasn't quite enough.
And it would have taken us all night. Like.
Yeah. We kind of made that mistake by doing all 16 books in reality, we probably should have done that in 2 parts. But we've learned our lessons. I love that whole like frat boy dynamic.
So I love that part of his personality, but then I really love his romantic side as well. I love him and Lydia. Like, I love all of that, but I also love him as Bryce's brother.
Yes.
And that's what I think is it's the only quote I wrote down for him. And it's, I don't care if I'm called Prince or Starborn or the Chosen One or any of that. The only thing I want to be called right now is your brother, if you'll have me. Like, the fact that he wants to make up with Bryce so much and like wants that sibling relationship, I just love it. And I just think he's such like a dynamic character. I think we see him in a lot of different like situations. Definitely. And like we get a lot of different personalities from him, and I just love him. I
completely agree. I'm not going to say too much more because he's obviously higher on my list, and I've got an absolute corker of a quote that I'm going to whap out in a minute. My number 6 is Kale.
Okay.
I love Kale. It was really hard picking between Kale and Asriel, like who goes above one another. Kale just picked the post purely because we get a book of Kale. And I just love him. Sorry, I know people are mad about that, but I love him.
I've already said,
I love Irene Kale.
I just don't get
I don't get it either. Like, I'm sorry. And this is a really like niche thing to say. But when I was like looking for, I was gonna get a Kale quote, and there wasn't really many. But when I was looking at like things of Kale earlier, so one of the things, I don't know if you might have heard of them. You know, there's an official colouring book for Throne of Glass and for ACOTAR. I don't know why I'm referencing the colouring book. It's not the colouring book. It's the Shadow of Ember's game.
Yes.
Which I got for Christmas, which I haven't played. Well, we need to play it because apparently you can't play it unless you've read TOG. So Corey bought it for me to play, and then when we actually wrapped out on Christmas or Boxing Day, it was like, oh no, you need to know the characters to be able to play. So we maybe that's an episode. We'll play Shadow and Ember, but
we'll have to video it.
Oh, but on the official artwork, the one of Kale, damn, like, and he's got like a really big nose in it, but like, I don't know, there's something about that just does it for me. And when I saw that today, I was like, yeah, I don't know, something about Kale. I love Kale. We've spoken a lot about it, so I'm not going to keep going into it, but yeah. Okay, now we're in our top 5, aren't we?
We are.
Okay, who's your number 5?
Aedion. I love Aedion.
We're feral for Aedion.
And
I
like,
love him.
Some people, after he's not very nice to Lysandra, some people really hate him and like really can't get back on board with him.
Yeah.
But like,
we love, what's our favourite colour, Sam?
Morally grey.
Morally grey.
I just love Aedion, and one of the quotes that I wrote down for Aedion is he's speaking to Lysandra, and it's one day I am going to marry you. I'll be generous and let you pick when, even if it's 10 years from now or 20, but one day you are going to be my wife.
I want to squeal. That's one of the quotes I wrote down.
I literally want to be like swinging my legs, like twirling my fingers through my hair. Oh.
I think as well, when we talk, like, not so much, because Adrian has quite a lot of screen time, but there's really not much Adrian and Lysandra screen time, like, together as a couple. The fact that you get that from one of maybe like a handful of scenes where it's the two of them being like romantic kind of to each other, feral. Also, maybe I'll save this when I get to him because he's a little bit higher up.
Okay.
I was so much of Adrian.
I love Adrian, and I just like I've already said it. I love that reunion between him and his dad, and like him like finally accepting it. Yeah. And my heart just breaks for him then. Yeah. I'm like, like he's been robbed again.
Yeah. Wolf of the North.
But I love him so much.
Another man with a title.
Yes.
My number 5 is Hunt.
Okay.
I really, really like Hunt. I think a lot of people, again, very common book talk theme, is to hate on Hunt. And people really didn't think that Bryce and Hunt were endgame in Flame and Shadow, which for me, like, no, they were always going to be endgame.
Yeah. A lot of people wanted him to die.
Yeah, I just, for me, I think why people don't like him as much is because he's the least morally grey leading man. Like, he has the least red flags in reality. If you compare him to Rhys and Rowan, he actually isn't that much of a red flag, which I like about him. I like that he's a little bit more of like a gentle soul, you know, like because in the first book he's like the Umbra Mortis, but in reality what he's doing isn't bad. No. Like I love Hunt. You mentioned one of the quotes that I've got you, sweetheart, wrecks me. Normally sweetheart is discussing with us being from the UK, like if somebody called us sweetheart over here, we'd be like, get away from me. But Hunt Atla, you can call me sweetheart all day. Yeah. An absolute corker of a Hunt quote I've got for you. Want to count my abs when we get home from the ballet. I love that. I love that he's got that like little bit of like jockiness in him, but he's also really moody. Yeah. I just feel like I need to put it out there that I can't take credit for this really funny take. And I text you this, I think. Was it while we were reading House of Flame and Shadow? I think it must have been. I'm going to have to give Corey, my husband, credit for this. But when we found out that Hunt's lineage, I don't know how we would put it, like dads, are the two of the princes of hell, whose names are gone from my brain. One begins with a TH, Thantanos, and can't remember the name of the other one. And that he was effectively like a project that they made because they wanted somebody to get the power, blah, blah, blah. And so the whole reason why he has this like power is because it's like as a result of them like making it. And Corey said to me, do you think his dads are proud knowing that he uses this like asteroid ending power to electrocute Bryce's clit? Which I just think is like, what a funny take. Like, I wish I could take credit for that, but that was all Corey.
Brilliant.
Great.
Absolutely brilliant.
So, yeah, I love Hunt. He's my favourite boy. I love him.
And I do. I really like Hunt and Bryce together. I was never on the bandwagon of like wanting Bryce to have a different mate. I was never in that group.
Yeah, agreed. Okay. Number 4?
My number 4 is Dorian.
Yeah.
The Dorian and Manon content that we get is fantastic.
I agree.
I'll bleed whatever colour you tell me to.
Yeah.
I'm like, Dorian.
Yeah. He's high up on my list, obviously in my top 5, so I'm not going to go too much into him. But I think a lot of I say Dorian, but like I think a lot of like the love that I have for Dorian is because of the like post-Tog content.
Yeah.
But we said this, like the king of Riz.
Yeah.
Like I love, in real life I don't love a cocky man. Yeah. But in books I love it.
I love him from when we meet him when he goes to get Selena from
Endovia.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love him from then because he's just so cocky and arrogant.
Love it.
And I just love it all.
Yeah, he's great. I love him.
He's fantastic.
Yeah.
And that interaction, that first interaction with Manon.
Yeah. Wonderful. And I actually like, because I know a lot of people were quite angry at the fact that we don't really get like it's implied that him and Manon end up together, but it isn't canon. Like, it's not like the others. But I kind of like that, because when you think of what he went through in such a short space of time, especially with Saoirse, it wouldn't have made sense that he was ready to just like go all in with Manon at that point. It's literally been like weeks, maybe months at that point. So I actually don't mind the outcome of it. I agree. I love Dorian. My number 4 is Aegon. We've spoken about this. I just fucking love Aegon. I have so many Aegon quotes for you. So this is another Aegon quote. This is a little bit, so you kind of read this quote, the one where he says, one day I'm going to marry you. But the beginning of that is, the useless sentries in the watchtower are now all half in love with you, he lied. One said he wanted to marry you. And I love that he's getting like a little bit jealous over like these sentries, like thinking that Lysandra's hot. And then the ending of that quote is, he shrugged, Princess Lysandra Ashriver sounds nice, doesn't it? Oh, I love it. I'm going to read you some bangers of Aegon quotes now. So this is another Aegon Lysandra quote. So Aegon leaned in and kissed Lysandra, kissed the woman who should have been his wife, his mate, one last time. I love you. Sorrow filled her beautiful face, and I you. She gestured to the western gate, to the soldiers waiting for its final cleaving. Until the end, Aegon hefted his shield, flipping the sword of Orinth in his hand, freeing the stiffness that had seized his fingers. I will find you again, he promised her. In whatever life comes after this, Lysandra nodded. In every lifetime, together they would turn towards the stairs and would take them down to the gates.
Beautiful.
I've got more. And we did the Kitty Cat one, which is fucking outstanding. This is really long. I'm going to read it and I can edit it out. But before my first battle, Aegon said... Oh, this is Aegon talking to Evangeline.
Yes.
I'm basically going to try and summarise for you, but it's basically Aegon telling Evangeline that before his first battle, he basically was shitting his pants all night the night before. But the final line... Aegon said in a conspirator whisper, better than shit in your pants, sweetheart. And I know he's talking to a child and he's talking about shit in his pants, right? But any man in SJM Men that says sweetheart is up there in my fucking box.
Yeah, it's because she tells him that she's been sick already. And then he says better than shit in your pants. I just think that's fucking brilliant.
One more point I'm going to make on Aegon is we forget that he's our pansexual king.
Oh my god!
We forget that it's canon that he talks about having a relationship with one of his Bane, who's still a member of his Bane, and they're good friends, but he sleeps with both. He said, well, this is the quote for you. So, Lysandra indeed went on the defensive and showed her hand. I know my history is unappealing. And then Aegon says, I'm going to stop you right there, Aegon said, daring a step closer. And I'm going to tell you that there is nothing unappealing about you. Nothing. I've been with just as many people, women, men. I've seen and tried it all. Her brows had risen. Aegon shrugged. I find pleasure in both depending on my mood and the person. One of his former lovers still remained one of his closest friends and most skilled commanders in his Bane. Attraction is attraction, he steeled his nerve, and I know enough about it to understand what you and I, something shuttered in her eyes and the words slipped from him. Love it. Love Aegon. Okay, number 3. We're getting so high now.
My number 3 is Azriel.
Okay.
And like, you know that I love Azriel. Yeah. I love like the dark, broody, like... Oh, the mystery around him. Like, where has he come from? Where's the shadow magic come from? Like, what is that?
There's so much mystery around Azriel, and I think, like...
And I think that's why I love him.
I totally get it. There's so much, like, canon stuff that we don't know, but has been hinted. Like, I'm pretty certain... What's the reference? Is it called, like, Rosebud or Rose Dew? The house that they... There's at one point... I can't remember if it's in Court Frost and Starlight, Silver Flames... where Rhys says to Azriel, oh, have you been to visit Rosedew yet? And he's like, no, not yet, which I think heavily implies, because am I right in saying that, like, his father and his mother are still technically alive? I don't think it's confirmed that either die.
I can't remember.
I know that it mentions that Rhys and Cassian go back and torture Azriel's half-brothers.
Yes.
Which was Dad's children. But I don't think it's ever confirmed that either are dead. I love that there's so much mystery around him. I agree with you.
I've got a quote for Azriel, and you probably know what it's going to be, but be careful how you speak to my high lady.
Fantastic.
I'm just like, and that meeting of all the high-lows,
Yeah.
when it says that like Asriel's just staring daggers across the room.
What an heiress.
Yeah, doesn't take his eyes off
Literally.
him, and like it's just staring daggers across the room. I like Asriel is like the one that's always going to be in your corner. Like
very loyal.
Yes,
Yeah.
He's like a little puppy, and he's like a loyal puppy.
He is. I'd forgotten that there's because obviously I'm trying to remember. I've literally just read Wings and Ruin, but he gets injured.
Takes an arrow to a wing.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
And so he actually can't fight technically in the very final battle at Highburn, and he's up on the mountain with like Feyre and Elaine and blah blah blah. And then at one point they kind of realise it's all going to shit. And then he literally says to Rhys, like, you'll have to chain me to a tree. Yeah. And I just love that. And I love, like, I should have quoted them, but there was loads of really, like, amazing quotes by Asriel during that scene where he's, like, shit-talking Rhys. And I kind of love it.
And a quote that I loved from Flame and Shadow is when he asks Bryce to play music.
Yes.
And she calls him a club rat.
Oh, I love it so much because he is. I feel like Asriel absolutely.
Yes.
When he says, like, is this what you listen to in your pleasure houses? Oh, I love it. I think that, like, Asriel really deserves happiness.
He does.
Like, the fact that he's been pining after the same woman for, like, 500 years breaks my little heart. By canon, technically has the biggest wingspan.
So we've been told.
So, yeah. I really like him. I just... Yeah. Well, number three is Rune Dannon.
Yeah. I know how much you love Rune.
I love Rune, obviously, because I'm my number three. I think, like, we spoke a lot about it. You said there's so many, like, aspects to Rune to love. Like, he's such a thought out and interesting character. Yes. The quote that I had was Rune Dannon knew three things with absolute certainty. Like that fucking scene when I read it. And I was thinking about this in the car on the way over, that like I think if that was maybe the likes of Asriel, Rhysand, Cassian doing that internal monologue with like you three things return, it'd come off a bit like corny. Yeah. But I don't know what it is about Rune. He just does it so well. There's so much I love about Rune. The only thing I was going to say, like, maybe to kind of talk about, not like a negative, but the only probably reason why he isn't in my top two, I love the relationship he has with Bryce. I love that he's kind of like a little bit cocky in the first book, but there's no sort of like love interest in that book for him. I love the like build up of romance between him and Lydia / Agent Day. The only thing for me that was a bit like, when they kind of become enemies again in Flame and Shadow, and then eventually get it on. Yeah. Like, I was so happy once they didn't. That wedding bonus scene, I know we've spoken about it, but like, oh my God, the fact that he cries is such a green flag. Like, I love him. Yeah. But I really didn't enjoy them not liking each other. Does that make sense?
He was quite, like, it also almost came across like quite childish, like like just ignoring her, like refusing to speak, like grow up.
We just kind of missed out on him being like super cocky and charming, a little bit. And I know we get it in book 2, but we kind of missed it in book 3, and that was one of my like, but I just love him so much. There's just like the frat boy thing. I love his relationship with Declan and Flynn. I had so many Rune quotes, but I had to delete them because there was just too many. But like, I love how much Declan and Flynn and Rune tell each other that they love each other. Yeah. It's such a green flag.
They have such a nice friendship.
When they're in the getaway car in Flame and Shadow and they hear Rune on the phone and they start crying, they're like, I'm so fucking glad to hear you, I love you. Oh, love it.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Number 2. Now, there's a good chance that we're either on the same page or we're reversed here, isn't it?
Number 2?
Yeah. Rune was your number 3?
Yeah, we've unsynced.
Oh. Oh.
Shall I just talk about who my number 3 is?
Yeah.
Because we've unsynced somehow.
How have we done that?
I don't know.
I've got 2 people left.
Yeah, I've got 3.
Okay.
I thought I only had 2, but I've got 3.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry.
With your number 3 then.
My number 3, my double number 3 is Dorian.
Yeah.
All the reasons that we said. I'll bleed whatever colour you want me to. I was just trying to find a really great quote. So I only learned this from BookTok, that Dorian and Chaol are in Assassin's Blade. just not named.
When she goes to the ball.
In the ball.
Yes.
Do you want to hear a corker of a Dorian line, now knowing that it's Dorian? So he, like, asks Selena Aylin for a dance. And then she's drunk, so she says, my name is Wind and Rain and Bone and Dust. She's been all, like, facetious. And he says, he chuckled low, delightful sound. She was drunk and silly and so full of the glory of being young and alive in the capital of a world that she could hardly contain herself. I have no name, she purred. He grasped her by the wrist, running a thumb along the sensitive skin underneath. Then let me call you mine for a dance or two. Dorian. Damn. And then I had... I'll bleed whatever colour you tell me to. Sorry, he's a bonus one. But we can go to number 2.
I don't know where we've missed.
It's okay, we're synced now. Yeah. It doesn't matter. Number 2.
Yeah, I think we're either going to be on the same page or we're going to be reversed because we've both only got the same 2 people left.
Yeah.
Cassian. Yeah.
Same.
Okay.
Okay, we'll do it in sync.
Okay. Cassian is so freaky deaky. Like...
I was literally taking a mouthful of water when you said that. You spat all over our new microphone. So fucking freaky, and I love it.
Silver Flames is just a ride.
Yeah.
But like, I love Cassian from as soon. So the quote from when we first meet him, and he says to Feyre, "Come on, Feyre, we don't bite unless you ask us to."
Woof. Oh.
And at one point, I can't remember the context, but he says, Feyre doesn't seem tired. Maybe I should take her for a ride.
I think, isn't it when he's trying to bait Rhys when they get back from the cabin, and he knows Rhys needs to get out of his system because he's like grumpy. So he's trying to like antagonize him to fight him, and then he says that, and then it's like Rhys exploded.
Yeah,
and then they're just like punching the shit. Oh, I love it.
But I just think, like, you cocky bastard to say that to your High Lord. Like,
I love it.
Oh.
I love him.
And I love the friendship between Rhys, Cassian and Azriel. That, like, brotherhood.
Stunning.
Like, the, like, that they do class each other as brothers and, like, have each other's backs and, like, would do anything for each other. I just love it.
Love it.
Put your hands on the headboard.
Yeah. I mean, when I started reading Akata, I never knew it was smut. And in hindsight, at the time of reading like Mist and Fury, I was like, ooh, like at Feyre and Rhys's banging scene, because I'd not really read smut up until that point. Same in Wings and Ruin. Then when I got to Silver Flames and I started reading Nesta and Cassian's smut, Jesus Christ. And even now, having read like in nearly a year and a half, like 80 books, probably most of that being smut, still now when I reread those scenes, like, at one point she like spreads her legs for him and he says beautiful. Like, I have so many good Cassian quotes, but you
No, you go. I'm
so I have an absolute corker of one, which when I was researching these, I was like, I forgot. I always knew that I loved him, but I forgot just how much I loved him. This is a conversation between Hellion and Cassian. I think it's just after the High Lords meeting. He says, this is Hellion. What are you thinking about, Hellion drawled as they approached the shut wooden door. Cassian straightened. He hadn't realised his thoughts had dragged such a scent from him. He grinned. Your mother. Hellion chuckled. I always forget how much I like you. And then Cassian says, happy to remind you, with a wink. Stunning.
Amazing.
Another just chef's kiss of a quote from this man. I don't remember this at all. I'm going to do my smutty ones first and then I'll do my serious ones. This is in Silver Flames. It's just before he goes to Nesta's room. I can't remember if it's after the breakfast table scene, but they've had at least one encounter. I think it's just the corridor scene where he like busts a nut.
Yeah.
But I think that's it. But so he's leaving, talking to Azriel to go to Nesta's room. And he says, Cassian aimed for the door. He wouldn't be able to rest, to focus until he evened the playing field. As he entered the hall, he muttered without looking back to Azriel, turn a blind eye, chaperone. What an absolute gem of a quote.
There's a lot of funny chaperone quotes, like things that so Azriel says, things that Cassian says, like that whole book is just fucking brilliant.
And then the final, like, smutty one I have, and then I'll go on to my serious one. This is in Akawar, I think, and Nesta says, "I've never worn pants," was all she said. "I could have sworn concern flashed across Cassian's features, but he brushed it aside and drawled, 'I have no doubt you'd start a riot if you did.'" That's about Nesta wanting to wear Illyrian leathers. And then I have one... There's obviously so many Cassians.
You've probably got the same serious one as me.
No, I don't think I have.
Oh.
This is a niche one. This is only because I just read Akawar. I wouldn't have remembered it. It might not be.
Okay.
But, so it's basically Miriam and Drakon have just shown up on the ships. And Rhys picks up Feyre and flies her out to the sea to meet them because they can both fly, can't they? Miriam and Drakon. Or maybe Drakon's holding Miriam because she doesn't have wings, but they're flying. They're in the air. And then Cassian picks up Nesta. So they're all having a little conversation in the air. And Cassian is when Nesta proposes the idea to go be a decoy to go try and fight Hybern, and Cassian will like shield her, and then obviously it goes badly.
Yeah.
And this is Cassian saying to Rhys, "No, I'm going to be the shield." Basically, he knows he's going to be the sacrifice. And he says, "I never got to repay your mother for her kindness. Let me do it this way. Let me buy you time."
Oh my God. Don't, because I'll be crying.
Heartbreaking. Repay your mother for her kindness. Oh my God, that man.
Phenomenal.
I just love him so much.
My serious Cassian quote was when Nesta dives on him. I have no regrets in my life but this, that we did not have time, that I did not have time with you, Nesta. I will find you in the next world, the next life, and we will have that time, I promise.
Stunning. And like, people get mad because Cassian actually never says "I love you" to Nesta. We don't need it. That was enough of a declaration of love. And I was reading a Reddit thread on him, again, deep in my research, and somebody had like a really good take that like Cassian never says it because Nesta's not really ready to hear it until after that scene where she like breaks down at the lake.
Yeah.
And then at that point, like, he said all of that up until now. I don't think... Nobody's under the pretense that he doesn't love her. So the fact that he doesn't actually say the words doesn't really matter.
No.
We love our Lord of Bloodshed. I posted a TikTok about him the other day with the, like, trend. What is it? Like, the hardest line in fiction.
Yeah.
And it was, again, during one of the battles with Hybern, where it says he takes down 3 men with 4 manoeuvres. The way Feyre talks about him, like, again, I forgot all this and only got it in the reread. Like, I just love that he's cocky.
Yeah.
Love that he's a killer. He just ticks all the boxes. And he's
Phenomenal.
a fucking freak.
Yeah. And I love that he trains Nesta and then win.
Yeah,
like, I love that as well. Like,
yeah.
Multiple facets to him as well.
A multiple faceted character, definitely. So many layers to Cassian that are just so enjoyable.
Yeah.
Agreed. Do you want to say it together?
So, our number one.
High Lord of the Night Court. Yeah.
There you are. I've been looking for you.
It was really hard for me to pick between Cassian and Rhys.
I flip-flopped a lot.
Yeah, me too.
When I was doing this.
Me too. And the only reason why Rhys pips the post for me is because he's much more of like a wooer. I feel like I kick my feet and twirl my hair a bit more over Rhys and like, ultimately, there's nothing that gets me going more than Sarah talking about Rhys and referring to him as Knight Triumphant.
Oh.
Like, I'd never heard the word triumphant before reading ACOTAR, but when they talk about him entering that throne room the first time they go to Hewn City,
yes,
like, there's somebody did a I just love like a fucking TikTok edit. People like put like, this would be the music that Rhys walks into. Do you know the song Delta Ray, Down by the River?
Yes.
And somebody cut the very ending of it where there's no singing. It's just like the drums and the humming. And it's like, imagine the High Lord walking into his hands in his pockets.
I love that he can turn that on and be so nonchalant and so arrogant.
Hands in pockets.
And like, when he says to Feyre, like, you don't have to do this, and she's like, I'm happy to. And she's like parading herself on his lap. Fantastic.
He, like, again, having just reread Mist and Fury and Akawar, I always loved Rhys and he was always my number one, but having reread it, there's so, like, in every single detail of Rhys, it's just like a swoon fest. There's so many little things that she describes at Rhys, and I literally am like a puddle on the floor. I think I sent this to you the other day. The quote, don't think I've got it here, but the quote about just his helmet. I was like, I just don't know what it is about that man. It's disgusting how much I think about him. I just love him. I love how morally grey he is. And we spoke about this in the last episode, that like people get really mad about his choices in Silver Flames.
Yeah.
But he isn't like, he is a morally grey character, but we just get a bit of a different perspective because it's Feyre talking about him. He still does bad things even when he's with Feyre. Like, he would sell out everyone for Feyre, as much as he doesn't want to admit it, he would. But we love him for that, you know?
When I was writing down quotes, I've literally just written all of chapter 54 from Mist and Fury. Because, like, all of it. The
admission scene. There's a bit in that when she first opens the door and she talks about his hair being ruffled from the snow. If I could scream and it didn't sound so terrible, I would. I could talk for hours about this man.
Same. Absolutely. Like, when he comes back and obviously she's gone back to Spring Court.
Yeah.
And he says, she is my mate and my spy.
So I've got a corker. So I'm your huntress and your thief. His hand slid down to cut the backs of my knees, and he said with a roguish grin, "You're my salvation, Feyre." Jesus. And then literally further down that page, did you enjoy the sight of me kneeling before you?
Yes,
Reese,
we all enjoyed that sight.
I never knew talking about a bandolier of knives strapped to legs could be so fucking attractive. This is what I mean by, like, in every single, like, interaction, there's so much good. Like, I feel like with Reese, there genuinely isn't a sentence. I could quote every single thing about him. Life's better when you're around, and look how lovely your handwriting is.
The fact that he makes her write, like, Rhysand is the most handsome High Lord and things like that. That's brilliant content.
Another one, tonight, this is about him talking about, I think, when they go to Rita's. Tonight, let's find out if you, Feyre, darling, are all talk, or if you'll allow a Lord of the Night to take you out on the town.
You can take me out on the town, Rhysand.
Yeah, take me on the town. In the middle of the street. In the sky. Have you got any more quotes?
I've got hello, Feyre darling.
Yeah. This is just a corker.
Perfect. And, like, every time I come across a video using that sound on TikTok, like literally, I'm straight in there.
A point that just came into my mind a second ago, or just now. The use of so, like, we've just read Powerless by Lauren Roberts.
Yes.
Spoiler warning for Powerless by Lauren Roberts. And I feel like Kit? Yeah. Kit? No, Kai. Kit's the other one, the brother.
Yes.
Is very much of a Rhysand vibe.
Yes.
Big time. And he uses darling, but too much.
Yeah. Way too much.
Like, to the point where I wanted to vomit in a bucket, and I'm like, no, stop now. You're ruining it for me. Whereas with Rhys, it is like the perfect balance. He does it every now and then, but doesn't overkill it. It's always appropriate.
Yes.
Again, over here in the UK, if anybody called you darling, you'd literally want to die. It's disgusting. But something about Rhysand doing it.
Yeah, amazing.
I have 2 more quotes.
And I also... Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I love as well, like, all the fan theories that Darling is his surname, and that's why he's saying... That's why he says Feyre Darling, to, like, give him her surname.
I would love that. It's corny as hell.
Oh my god, yeah, but I love it.
Fucking eat it up.
Yeah.
I also love the theory that it's Moonbeam, the same as Feyre says. I'm here for that as well. Because Feyre says in the book, one of the bonus chapters, you know the bonus scene where they find Nyx's name in the library? Have you read that?
Yeah.
You have. And then she says, like, because your surname is ridiculous. So, like, we know there's a surname coming.
Yeah.
I would be fine with either.
Yeah.
It's super cheesy that it would be Darling, but I'm fine with it.
But also, like, we know he's coming, but, like, I'm like, where? Because if the next book is going to be Asriel or Elaine, like, I'm like, how is she going to drop that in, like, a surname?
I also wouldn't be surprised if we don't ever get that answer. I think it's maybe a little, like, Easter egg she dropped in is never going to pull through on, which is fine. Like, okay, it is what it is.
And it's quite nice reading I love reading people's theories about things.
Oh,
so, like,
same.
I love the theories about his surname. Like,
How do you feel about the Rhysand being evil theory? I'm fine with it.
Yeah. it would break my heart, but he's morally grey anyway. Like, I still love him. Yeah. So do you know what I mean? Like, whatever.
I have 2 more quotes.
Okay.
I want to paint you. He gently lifted me into his arms. Nude would be best, he said in my ear. So funny. And then this is talking about when they come across Lucien and the sentries in the woods, you know. And she says, and if he had grabbed me, there was nothing but uncompromising will in his eyes. Then I would have torn apart the world to get you back. Oh, and he hasn't even told her that they're mates at that point.
Beautiful.
Like, oh, God, I could talk for so long about Rhysand.
And do you know what I love about Rhysand is sending things down the bond.
Yeah.
Like the images that he sends her and like the stuff that he says to her down the bond. Oh, I just think it's fantastic.
I was going to put this as a quote, but I didn't. But one of the quotes is like, he says something, again, I think it's before, oh no, maybe they are mates. I'm not sure if they're mates or that. Oh, they must be. I can't remember, but he says like, shout it down the bond. And she says like, oh, how do I do that? And then she says something and then he says like, oh, try rubbing it on certain parts or something, you know, basically.
Yeah.
I just love him. I knew that Rhysand and Cassian would be in both of our top 5s, but I did wonder if Cassian would be your number 1.
I flip-flopped
a lot,
me too. I won't lie. I did flip-flop back and forth.
I just think for me, Rhysand pips the post purely because it's just like every single sentence, every single time. There's so much if I went through my highlights on Kindle, it's all Rhys. Talking about like, there's one point again in the same scene where I think she's talking about him kneeling before her, and it's the first time I think she sees him in Illyrian leathers, and she says something like, just she didn't realise how like muscly his legs were. Oh my God.
We love a muscly leg.
We love a muscly leg. When he vaporizes all the Highburn with one hand, like he just flicks his wrist. Oh my God.
Fantastic.
It's just not healthy how much I think about that man.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
That's our top 17. But we fell so out of sync.
Honestly.
I don't know where I went wrong.
Maybe I just did 2 back to back. Like,
who knows? I just miscounted. I've had so many Aegon quotes that it meant that Dorian was buried in between. So I just, when I was counting, like, no, I definitely have a top 5. I would just completely miss Dorian. Yeah. Are we done? I think we're done.
We're now up to 1,024 followers.
That's fucking insane.
So funny.
So we're on social media now. We weren't last time.
No.
Pod of Smut and Wingspan on TikTok, a Pod of Smut and Wingspan on Instagram, and that's it so far. Oh, we do have Twitter X. Do I remember the username? No, it's not a Pod of Smut and Wingspan because that was taken.
What?
Yeah, it was. I couldn't. It won't. Actually, do you know what? It's not that it's taken. It's that you can only change your username because it just default gave me one on browser.
Oh.
And I just couldn't navigate that at the time. I do need to change it.
Yeah.
A Pod of Smut and Wingspan on TikTok, a Pod of Smut and Wingspan on Instagram, and if anyone's using X, we're Pod Smut 79753 on X. But to be honest, don't be surprised if that doesn't stick around because it's kind of pointless.
I think TikTok's our biggest avenue, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where we're posting content.
And we have activated on Spotify, which is a really great feature if anyone's listening on Spotify, that there's like a Q&A, so when you go onto Spotify it pops up like a question, and I think I've set it to what do you want to hear. So if anyone's got any like suggestions, opinions, things they would like us to talk about, whatever it is, please comment, message us, tell us. And that's our top SJM Men. Sarah J. Maas.
I enjoyed that.
That was really good fun. What?